All right, so maybe you're not digging Descartes. Maybe you're looking at the way he reasons his way to ideas about the structure of reality, and you're just a little skeptical. You're thinking, okay, Descartes, I appreciate and kind of admire what you did given the historical circumstances in which you did your work, but it's not a mode of thinking that really works for me. And I can imagine you even thinking that with regard to Leibniz, right? That you look at Leibniz and he says, hey, I'm 100% certain that a particular type of God would exist. It would be a logically necessary God. And given that God's nature, I can also then conclude with 100% certainty something about the nature of this world that we inhabit, that it is the best of all possible worlds, because any other world would be contradictory to the nature of this divine creator that I believe I have 100% certainty exists. And maybe you're just sort of skeptical of the whole rationalist project itself, right? This idea that without any sense observations, without any experiments, without any experiences whatsoever, we can reason our way to ideas about the nature of reality and arrive at those conclusions with 100% certainty. And so maybe that just doesn't strike you as kind of a very plausible theory of knowledge. Maybe instead you think, if I'm going to have knowledge about something, if I'm going to make a claim that I know something, I need to be able to point to some sort of experience that I've had, some sort of sense data that I've taken in that would justify this claim to knowledge that I'm making. And if that's kind of more of a good fit for you, then maybe you're an empiricist. Okay, so we're going to look at empiricism here. And you've already got really good empirical skills. You exercise them all the time. When you go out and you jump on a skateboard and you learn how to ride that skateboard and you learn how to navigate, different contours of a place, you're not only learning how to ride the skateboard, right? You're not only gaining knowledge of how to ride the skateboard, you're also gaining knowledge about how, your body, given its size, how it kind of moves around the contours of wherever you're skateboarding, and you're gaining knowledge about kind of how reality is structured and how gravity works and things like that. When you go to your chem lab and you do experiments, you gain knowledge about what kinds of interactions take place between different compounds. When you listen to me yammer away at you on your computer, hopefully you're gaining knowledge about Descartes or about rationalism or now about empiricism. And you can trace all of these claims to knowledge that you might make back to experiences you've had, back to experiences watching me and seeing me and listening to me, or being on the skateboard and kind of feeling things. Okay? And this is how the empiricist is going to roll. Empiricism is a theory of knowledge that says that all of the claims to knowledge we make have to be rooted in some experience we've had in order to be legit claims to knowledge, okay? So there's three sort of fundamental principles to empiricism. One is the only source of genuine knowledge is sense experience. You have to have seen it, smelled it, heard it, tasted it, touched it, felt it, in order to be able to claim knowledge of it. Okay, that's not to say that an empiricist wouldn't highly value reason. Empiricists do highly value reason, but they think of reason as having limits, right? That reason is most appropriately used as a tool to kind of process or interpret the sense data. So we go out into the world and there's all of this stimulus around us, and we use our analytic thinking to start to categorize all of that stimulus, all of that sense data into meaningful sort of pockets of information that we can then use as a basis to claim knowledge. The empiricist is really going to value reason as it relates to sense data. They're not going to think that you can reason your way to insight about the nature of reality without having that firmly grounded in some sort of experience that you have, some sort of sense experience that you have. So they're going to whereas the rationalist is going to say we can use pure reason to get to those insights about the nature of reality, empiricists are going to say, that's not true. You've got to have reason combined with your sense experience. And then the third sort of principle of empiricism is that there's no innate ideas, okay? So they're going to disagree with modern rationalist thinkers like Steven Pinker and Noam Chomsky, who think that we come into the world as babies with knowledge that we couldn't possibly have learned that quickly through experience. They're going to disagree with somebody like Descartes and say, look, I know you think you have this idea of perfection that's in your mind that couldn't have come from experience because you've never experienced anything perfect. But the empiricist is going to say, look, Descartes, you've experienced plenty of imperfect things in the world, and all you have to do is imagine those things without their flaws. And that's how you arrive at this concept of perfection. So you take something that is imperfect, you sort of imaginatively extract all of its flaws that make it imperfect, and then you're left with something perfect. And that's kind of how an empiricist is going to respond to Descartes' claim, to Leibniz's claim about this idea of innate ideas, ideas that we're born with. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look initially at three really heavy hitters in empiricism. We're going to kick it old school and go all the way back to Aristotle, who kind of lays the groundwork for empiricism. And then we're going to look at John Locke, who is regarded as one of the most influential Enlightenment thinkers, maybe the most influential Enlightenment thinker. And we're also going to look at George Berkeley, Bishop Berkeley from Ireland, who UC Berkeley is named after. We call it Berkeley. His name is, we pronounce his name Barclay because he's Irish. But Bishop Berkeley had profound impacts on higher education in America and the formation of higher education in America. All right, so we'll start looking at each of these three folks and see how they come up with a theory of knowledge that combines both sense experience and rationality.